Hello there, this is the iDRAC6 Remote Web GUI Interface Walkthrough video. My name is Peter Tsai, the Systems Management Evangelist for DellTechCenter.com. I'm going to take you through all of the menus in the Drac 6 Clarity interface, and keep in mind that we've edited this video in certain parts. We might have sped up a section to keep the total runtime at about 7 or 8 minutes. Let's start the demo by accessing the Drac interface by typing in an IP address in a web browser. From there, you log in using your credentials, and you're taken to a system summary screen, which shows the status of server components, as well as a virtual console preview window. I'm going to bring up that window, and you can see what's going on the server. We're booting currently. Next, we're going to move over to the System Details tab, where you can see much more information. Here we can see BIOS information. We see firmware levels. I'm clicking on the hyperlink that takes us to the Drac info. The firmware is 3.21, which is the latest version of the Blade version of the iDRAC. Scrolling down, you see IP settings, and then at the bottom, MAC addresses. The next tab we're going to go over to is WWN MAC, which is related to FlexAddress. We don't have FlexAddress installed on the system, so we're going to skip over that tab. Moving on to System Inventory, we have different fabric types that you can see, firmware versions for the BIOS, and USC, which is the Unified Server Configurator. Scrolling down, we also see the iDRAC6 version again, 3.21 as we saw on the previous screen, and the version for the Dell OS drivers pack. Next up at the top, we have the Setup tab, and the first boot device, which is a setting that we can normally change in the BIOS. We can set it right here through the iDRAC interface. Moving over, we can set up remote Syslog settings. You can send events to a server on your network. On the Power Management tab, we can perform various options such as powering off or rebooting the system right from this menu here. And on the power budget side, we can see information about recent power consumption. At the top, you can see minimum potential power consumption and maximum potential power consumption. In the logs, we can see recent events in the cell log. We have a postcode log, and we can also see screen captures of the last crash. We haven't had any crashes recently, so there's no data there right now. Moving over the Boot Capture tab, we can see screenshots that were taken during post. For example, here we have a configuring memory, please wait screen. The next option is a new feature in 3.2.1. It's called Work Notes. You might have noticed in the cell log that we had some MESB errors. There's a faulty installation, so I fixed that and I noted it in the Work Notes. For alerts management, we can create alerts on certain events. It's not enabled right now, but you can send an alert when a certain event occurs. The Trap Settings tab allows us to send events to certain IP addresses when events occur. We can also do the same for email. Here I'm going to send it to Peter at Dell. We've already seen a little bit of the virtual console, which displays whatever's on the screen of the server at the time. Here we're in USC, Unified Server Configurator, where you can view system information, do OS deployments, or update firmware. Moving on, we're at the configuration page for Virtual Console. vFlash is an option on the iDRAC that allows for an SD card that inserts into the DRAC itself. On the vFlash, we can create partitions that we can store drivers on that are very useful for OS deployments. We can also create partitions from an image file, as you can see here, as well as format and delete different partitions. Here I created test3 just now. Remote File Share allows you to connect to a remote network drive that is also addressable by the iDRAC like the vFlash. To connect, you simply specify the IP address and file path and enter your username as username@domain.com. Moving on, in the left-hand navigation, we've gone to the Idrac Settings, and we're looking at the remote access information, which is very similar to what we saw in the Systems menu. On the Network and Security tab, in the Idrac Settings, we can change various networking settings. The Users tab allows us to view the various users that are allowed to log into the iDRAC. We have SSL settings, Directory Services settings that allow us to use Active Directory or LDAP, and we can view all the current sessions that are running right now. So we have a GUI session and the Virtual Console session that you saw earlier. There's also serial over LAN settings and services settings that covers web server, SSH, Telnet, SNMP, and the automated system recovery agent. There's a tab for key encryption and Dell Key Manager, and then the next tab is for logs. where we can see all of the events generated by the iDRAC6. In the log, you're able to see logins from the GUI, virtual console sessions, or even when you power on or off the blades. Under the Troubleshooting tab, there's an Identify feature that allows you to blink LEDs on the server that your Drac is in. From the Diagnostics console, we can run racadm commands. Racadm is the Remote Access Controller command line tool. We're going to run two commands here. One is ifconfig, which displays the contents of the network interface table. The other command we're going to run is netstat, which displays the routing table and the current connections. The next tab is the Update tab, which is used to update Drac firmware. Here we click on Browse to point to the IMG or IMC image file that we've extracted from the package we've downloaded from the Dell website or repository manager. The CMC menu option on the left side refers to the Chassis Management Controller interface that controls the blade chassis and is one level up from the Drac. The Batteries menu shows the health status of the batteries in the system. Temperature does the same. It shows the temperature status, maximum and minimum of the system. And Voltages shows the health status of the various components within the system. Power monitoring shows current and historical average, maximum, and minimum power usage statistics. The CPU link shows us the health status of your processors. There's a postcode menu as well, and the miscellaneous health link takes you back to the cell log. Let's wrap it up by going to the system summary page again, where we can see the health statuses of components, firmware levels, logs, and the work log at the bottom. We're going to look at the virtual console finally and use it in conjunction with the power control to show you how you can use different components of the iDRAC interface together. So just now we rebooted the system through power control, and opening the virtual console we can see the system is entering post. Soon you'll see a BIOS boot up screen, and hopefully this last demo shows how you can use all the components together. I hope you've enjoyed this walkthrough demo of the iDRAC6 remote GUI interface. Remember, for more Dell technical information, you can always go to delltechcenter.com. Thank you.